Watch Dogs Legion is one of Ubisoft's biggest games coming out later this year, and Gaz got to play it early, just like he did with Assassin's Creed, and I'm definitely not jealous. But at least he's here to tell us all about it, and let's see what's happening with hacking in a futuristic London sort of cityscape. What's going on?
What's going on, mate? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's set in the future. It's London, and there's a lot of new technology. There's a lot of hacking going on. It's a dystopian vision of the future. It's done in that Ubisoft way, so it's not quite as dark and gritty as you would imagine. It's Watch Dogs. It's a teen action movie type of feel to it. It's not dark and gritty at all. It's light. There's people dying. There's hackers, and there's like big overlords and people suppressing us, but it's all fine because we're dead sec and we're gonna take them down.
We've got pink mohawks, so we're cool. Well, that's a good jumping off point to one of my questions, and it's probably the most sort of serious, even that's kind of an overstatement, but Ubisoft likes to pretend that none of its games are political. They're apolitical, they don't mean anything, it's just consumed by the masses and anyone can enjoy it. But this is probably the most overtly political one they've done in a long time. Like, they've explicitly said in the past, it's set in a sort of post-Brexit-esque Britain where everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. It's a police state, there's totalitarianism, or like the dangers of technology. All of those are overt political themes. So how does that seem to resonate? Does it actually have anything to say politically, or is it just, oh no, you're a hacker, let's go blow up a military thing, because we all know the military are bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to cast any judgments right now, having played like the 3 hours that I've played on it. I mean, the bottom line is I'm here to play and enjoy a game. I don't really enter into what games are trying or not trying to say politically. I'm here for a good time, so I let that thing wash over me.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I just think it's always funny how Ubisoft are like, nope, definitely not political. I'm like, are you sure? Because this game you just put politics in. But anyway, so the main thing about this game, especially over the previous Watch Dogs games, which are open world but you can hack stuff, I mean, that's kind of a cool concept, but it's not particularly groundbreaking or anything like that. But this one's got this new feature, which is you can effectively play as anyone in the world. You recruit them to your little cyber terrorist unit, and then you can play as them. So how does that work? Can you expand on that?
Well, it is what they're bringing new to the table. It's this thing we're always looking for in our games. It's this new feature that kind of defines maybe a new genre, or just defines something new in this current sphere, this open world category that we play and love so much. But yeah, you can be anyone now. You can go anywhere, you can do anything, and now you can be anyone, and they literally mean it. There's millions of people in London. You can walk around, you can scan anybody, apart from the main bad guys in the it wouldn't make sense if you could just be the main bad guy, but a policeman or an Albion operative. So Albion are this militaristic group who've taken charge of, or just they're oppressing the London on behalf of the government. So they're a mercenary group that have been hired by the government. So you can be an Albion operative and recruit them onto your side, which is DedSec or this world's version of Anonymous, essentially. You can be a construction worker. They're putting a lot of effort into pitching that. Yeah, you can be You can have your own monkey wrench, and you can smack people over the head. This is groundbreaking, people. You can have a monkey wrench. They've got some awesome other skills too, as in the construction worker can call a drone, and you can just fly over London. It's pretty damn sweet. You can be a ambulance worker. You can be a road sweep. You can be a sex worker, which I was one of the people who happened across my playthrough. You can be anyone and anything. The question always remains is that it's so highly ambitious, right? You can be anyone. Like, what is the limits to that? There has to be limits to it. This is a game. They can't just plow in hours and hours and resources and years and years of resources into this game and literally be anyone and anything. There has to be a limit to that, and that's the question that is still unanswered. Like, how far do you have to pull at the bit of cotton before it all starts unraveling? You realize where things are starting to repeat.
Yeah, and I think that kind of feeds into my next point. So this feature of being able to play as anyone, that is great in concept, and it's certainly very, very ambitious. But is that one thing enough? Like, does the game feel like it is something new, or does it fall into the same Ubisoft traps that we've seen time and time again, and we even talked about a lot in yesterday's video, all about Assassin's Creed Valhalla? Is it just too Ubisofty?
I mean, I think Legion offers something unique, right? In that this is a sandbox game, and there are missions and objectives to achieve, but in the true sense of a sandbox game, you can choose to achieve the objective in whatever way you want, with whatever character you want now too. So it brings such a fresh new take on the on the genre. Your mission is to get a document out of a police station, for example. If you use your police operative or member of DedSec who's a policeman, you can just walk in because you've got that outfit on. Nobody suspects you unless you walk too closely to them. Then you might get in trouble. There's that way to do it. Or you can be a construction worker, for example. You can get your drone out and fly to the top of the building and then get down that way. Or you can just be the spy and go in. You've got this, this technology that a spy might have. You might have a cloaking shroud thing where you can just walk past people for a certain amount of time. They won't be able to see you, and just take them out. You can do it lethally. You can do it non-lethally. There's so many ways to approach any different situation. It's the ultimate playground in that way, which is what the best sandboxes are. So I think this is just about different enough to get people's attention. It's not that headline game like Assassin's Creed might be, right? But Watch Dogs, they've spent a few years on this. They've put a whole lot of time in it. There's loads of different systems at play here. Loads of different variables and gameplay type things to get your teeth into. I just wonder whether this is just going to fly under the radar because it's not that headline grabbing Assassin's Creed kind of game. But I think there's enough interesting mechanics and things, and they do things differently enough to warrant, to give it credit, because we all know Ubisoft games are known for being generic and reusing mechanics and this and that, and there is a lot of that to it. But from my understanding, from what I've played, Legion has something different, and it will offer something different.
Well, that's good then. So you're kind of worried that it might fly under people's radar because it is a Ubisoft game and the reputation of specifically the Watch Dogs franchise. I mean, the first game is one of the principal examples of downgrading in modern AAA games. The first trailer came out, it was amazing, all this fancy tech and his cloak blowing in the wind and all that sort of stuff. The game comes out, it doesn't look terrible, it just doesn't look like what was promised. So I think that's left a bad taste in people's mouths. So you think people should maybe give this one more of a chance because of this play as anyone promise, and it seems to be that they are delivering it.
I'm not sure whether they will deliver ultimately or not, but what I will say is, if the premise interests you, just keep an eye on this. And so the problem with the first one, and that's the problem with Ubisoft in general, in the marketing, in the lead up, and the promotion and that, they do try to oversell their games a little bit, and it's led to a lot of disappointments in the past. And I think that obviously the first one with all the the promise of the Watch Dogs kind of vision, that kind of let a lot of people down. I'm not sure whether it'll be the same here, and I think maybe people are soured on Ubisoft's promises of the features in games, because they do tend to over kind of market stuff. I don't know. I think this might be some people's favorite game. There's just so much to do, right? And it's a type of single player game that you could play for hours and hours and hours, and people will just love it because it's this. I can't state enough how much there is in this game, because there's just loads. They've put loads of effort into it. Whether it will truly realize what they're aiming for and that vision that they're aiming for in terms of be anyone, do anything. A lot of the previews I've seen so far have implied that everyone just feels the same anyway. You can be anyone, but they kind of feel the same is the sentiment. So how quickly that novelty will wear off of being anyone is still up in the air. But I don't know, wait until the reviews go out and keep your eye on it is what I'd say.
Okay, so just, don't write it off just yet, because it could be something really good, but the jury's still out. We're not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, only time will tell. You got to have 10, 20 hours on this game to be able to tell for sure whether it's just a one-trick pony or there is actual depth to this game. Yeah,
I think the biggest risk with this play as anyone thing is that either everyone's going to feel the same, as you've said, or that none of them are going to mean anything to you. Especially because, in a story game, or any sort of story, you typically need a central figure or a couple of central figures who you can root for, hope to overcome the bad guy and win the day. But if you can just play as anyone, are any of them going to be compelling to follow beyond just, I want my builder to do this because he's got some good skills?
Yeah, that's true. And you can recruit anyone, you can be anyone you like. You're probably going to have your favorites. And the way that they're designing the game is they've actually taken out the leveling system on your characters that you recruit, just so that you don't get too attached to them. So you can just play as a lot of different people at the same time. But the promise of having so many different characters available is that, you might not become attached to the characters that you're playing, and it might feel like, no connection with your protagonist. You could be anyone, do anything, switch in and out. It might feel unrewarding in that way. And just a point on that, it's like I questioned earlier, how far will they go with the procedural generation? How many different voices have they got? How many different characters have they got? Apparently they've sampled a finite amount of actors' voices, and then they're modulating them to have a higher pitched voice or a lower pitched voice. And that, from my experience, is noticeable. Some of the voices sound a bit weird, just a little bit weird, and I wasn't sure what it was. And then I heard that's what they're doing. So again, it's just a little bit of a rough around the edges, I'd say. The vision is there. It's good. I like what they're doing. They're trying to bring something new to the table, to use that old chestnut, but they're trying to develop this genre, and they're trying to do something fresh. How well they implement it, how well they do it, I don't know. It's like you give them kudos for trying. They get like brownie points for attempting. It's a kind of situation where you say, well, yeah, it's got potential, but let's see what happens in Watch Dogs 4, for example.
So the game is releasing later this year. I think it's on the 29th of October. So that's very close to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is, I think, on the 17th of November. This is just kind of an extra talking point. Do you think that's it's too close for two Ubisoft games, especially two that are so prominent in their kind of marketing campaign at the moment? They're talking about them quite a lot. They both were sharing the center stage of the Ubisoft Forward event at the weekend. Do you think, especially because Assassin's Creed in particular looks rather janky at the moment, could it be that they are releasing too close, and maybe that one of them should possibly be delayed? And if so, what one do you think maybe should be delayed or set back a little bit?
It is that question, isn't it? Because what's the overlap in the player base of these two games?
Yeah.
I mean,
especially
Ubisoft
as they
games
are so similar.
Yeah, I mean, the Ubisoft games, you've played one, you kind of know the formula of all the rest. It's just, we said yesterday, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is just Assassin's Creed game with a Viking lick of paint. Yeah, that's the question. What is your tolerance for the open world Ubisoft checklist formula, right? These two games will take ages to complete. There's no way you can buy them both on day one and expect to complete them. Because if they're 2 weeks apart or something like that, aren't they?
Yeah, something.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, basically. I mean, you're absolutely right that they overlap on the player bases. And if you are someone who loves that kind of thing, I mean, it's Christmas come early, because there's two huge games dedicated to that style of gameplay at once. I mean, happy days. But I guess for anyone else who's not so keen on it or isn't entirely sold on it, both games coming out, one of them is definitely going to end up falling by the wayside, especially with such a huge game as Cyberpunk coming out shortly. I mean, 2 days after Valhalla.
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking again another futuristic sci-fi, a lot of tech type of game, open world. All right, it's first person in Cyberpunk, but are you going to buy Watch Dogs Legion instead of Cyberpunk, or are you just going to wait those extra few days and get what you really want, which is Cyberpunk? I mean, questions over whether it's the right time to release these games. However, it is before Christmas. We all know they get a Christmas boost because parents want to buy stuff for their kids for Christmas. What can I get for Christmas? Oh, just buy me a Watch Dogs game. Everyone knows Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed or whatever, so that's why they're releasing it now. I don't know whether it's going to work for them. Let's only wait and see, I guess.
So I've got one final question, and I'm not sure if you'll even be able to answer it, but can I build an entire dead sec of entirely sex workers? Do you think that is possible?
Yeah, absolutely possible. I don't think that there is a limit to that.
To how many sex workers you can employ.
Yeah. In my experience, you're more likely to find spies and politicians walking around the streets of London than you are sex workers. I mean, like I said, I did find a sex worker, but there's just loads of spies apparently. In terms of what this game is like to play, and it's funny because we talked yesterday about the Assassin's Creed game. It's an Assassin's game. You're supposed to sneak up to people and kill them. This game is more stealth than Assassin's Creed, and that's kind of the weird thing about Watch Dogs, is that if you like stealth games, pretty much you can stealth this whole game and you will love it. It kind of reminds me of Hitman in a way, with the way you can put different suits on and blend into the workers in an area. It's the same kind of thing. You just recruit a guy who works in that particular area, and then you can just walk in and notice, and then get by and do what you want to do. So it's like an open world Hitman thing with loads more Ubisoftification, like all these other different systems, an open world map, a collectathon type of thing. So if that kind of appeals to you, then I would go for it. Those people just want stealth games, right? And there's not enough stealth games out there. This game can be stealth the whole way through, and that is an appeal in its own.
I definitely think that's the way you should sell it, is for any mission, whether it is stealth or action, there will be someone who's right for the job. Then you go out and find that person, like you would in Hitman, finding the right disguise. Like you dress up as a janitor to sneak in this way, or you dress up as a party guest for the party, and you just blend in with everyone. So that's just a kind of quick run through of some of Gaz's thoughts on Watch Dogs Legion after having played what, like a few hours, like 3-4 hours, something like that. He's pretty positive on it, which I think may come as a surprise for a lot of a lot of Ubisoft games recently. But it's got potential. I think that's the.
I'm positive. I'm positive because I like to promote new ideas, right?
Yeah.
So I want to focus on that. I don't want to focus too much on maybe they've not done it right. Maybe there's always questions in my head, like how have they implemented it, how have they done this, how have they done that. I've tried not to focus on those thoughts in this talk. I've tried to leave the door open because I don't want to make a judgment and tarnish anybody else's opinion. I just want to tell you what I think in terms of what this game could possibly do and to make you enjoy it. So I focused on those, although there are I talked about it in more depth in the podcast. If you can check that out from the weekend, go and check. I talked about both games, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion. So I'm all like laid back chat, if you like, about my fears for whether they've achieved what they're trying to achieve with this game there. But like I said, I'm just trying to focus on positives here.
Well, staying positive, we're going to wrap it up here so you don't have to hear us drone on anymore. If you like the content, you want to see more, make sure you hit the subscribe button and, of course, the like button. That helps out a lot. Go on over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming if you want to support the content we create. I've been Henry, he's been Gaz. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.